Als wir mit der Show anfingen, dachte ich wirklich, wir machen eine Show über den Bau von Autos und Motorrädern für Menschen. Daraus entwickelte sich eine Show über Menschen und ihre Geschichten. Die Anfangszeit war wirklich herausfordernd.
A shop bookkeeper forged the boss's signature to buy himself a Range Rover. A fan-favorite detailer vanished the same week. Thousands of dollars in gear went missing. And one of the most talented builders in the shop simply walked out the door. No goodbye. No explanation. No drama. This is the real story behind the people who came and went from Count's Customs, the Las Vegas garage that became a household name thanks to counting cars. Some of these exits made headlines. Others were so quiet that most fans never even noticed. Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll understand exactly why Danny Koker's shop looks so different today than it did back in Season 1. Intro. Before we get into the departures, it's worth understanding how Count's Customs became big enough to have this kind of drama in the first place. Danny Koker wasn't born into the car business. He grew up bouncing between Cleveland, Ohio, and Detroit, Michigan, a city where the sound of an engine turning over is basically a lullaby. His father toured as a gospel musician, so Danny grew up around two things at once, music and motors. By his teenage years, he was already the kid who'd rather be under a hood than doing much of anything else. He eventually landed in Las Vegas in the early 1990s, and for a while his claim to fame wasn't cars at all. It was a late-night horror movie hosting gig where he played a leather-clad, guitar-toting vampire character. It was cheesy, it was fun, and it gave him a taste of being in front of a camera. But the shop he opened on the side, originally just to maintain his own collection of hot rods and choppers, is what actually built his reputation. Count's Customs became known for a very specific look, flame jobs, low stances, big attitude, zero interest in following trends. His break into national television came almost by accident. Because his shop sat close to the gold and silver pawn shop made famous by porn stars, producers started calling him in whenever that show needed an expert opinion on a car or motorcycle. Audiences liked him immediately, and in 2012 that appeal turned into his own series, Counting Cars on History Channel. The format was simple, Danny and his crew hunting down, restoring, and customizing vehicles, but it worked because the personalities felt genuine instead of manufactured. That authenticity, though, came with a cost most viewers never saw. Section: The reality behind the reality show. Here's something people forget when they watch a 30-minute build episode. Real restoration work does not happen in 30 minutes. A single car can take weeks, sometimes months, once you account for tracking down rare parts, tearing a vehicle down to nothing, discovering hidden damage, and redoing work that didn't pass Danny's standards the first time. The crew would often film for days just to capture enough usable footage for one episode, and editors would compress all of that effort into a tight, entertaining story. Danny has never been shy about demanding quality. If paint looked slightly off, it got redone. If an engine sounded even a little wrong, it got pulled apart again. That standard is part of why the shop built such a strong reputation, but it also meant constant pressure on everyone working there, on top of the pressure of being filmed constantly. And then there was fame itself, which changed the shop in ways nobody fully expected. What used to be a small, tight-knit garage suddenly became a tourist attraction. People flew in from other states, even other countries, just to stand outside and take pictures. Some tried to walk right in during working hours. The crew that used to work in relative peace now had an audience every single day. Fame didn't just change the customers who showed up outside. It changed some of the people working inside, too. A handful of team members got a taste of the spotlight and wanted more of it, more screen time, more credit, more money. Others simply weren't built for the scrutiny that comes with being recognized in public. Combine that with the normal stress of running a growing business, legal paperwork, new contracts, expansion into other ventures like Danny's Vegas music venue, and you get a shop where turnover was inevitable. By the third and fourth seasons, longtime viewers started noticing familiar faces disappearing with little to no explanation. Some left on good terms, some didn't. Here are 5 departures that stand out the most, and the very different stories behind each one. Employee number 1, the bookkeeper, Joseph Frontiera. Not every important person at Count's Customs turned a wrench. Joseph Frontiera worked in the back office, handling the shop's books, payroll, bill payments, day-to-day financial record keeping. It's a job with almost zero screen time and enormous responsibility, because whoever holds it has direct access to the company's money. According to a lawsuit Count's Customs filed in 2016, that access was abused. Court filings allege that Frontiera used company funds to cover a down payment on a personal Range Rover and to pay for personal air travel, and that he had signature stamps made in the names of Danny Koker and another company officer, so that checks could be signed without their direct involvement. The lawsuit also claimed the shop's taxes went unpaid on his watch, leading to an IRS penalty reported at around $18,000. In total, the company accused him of misusing more than $75,000. The lawsuit didn't stop at Frontiera. Kustoms also went after the staffing agency that had placed him in the role, arguing the agency failed to disclose that he had a prior embezzlement history before ever recommending him for a job with financial access. That agency countersued, arguing the allegations lacked support and that its contract had actually barred Frontiera from handling company funds in the first place. Frontiera was also charged with felony theft in a Las Vegas court, though because he was living out of state at the time, he wasn't arrested. Public records don't show a clean, well-publicized resolution to the civil case. Legal disputes like this can drag on for years and sometimes end quietly, through settlement, rather than with a dramatic verdict. What's certain is that Frontiera disappeared from the show without any on-air explanation. He simply wasn't there anymore, and Counting Cars never addressed it. In the years since, he has kept an extremely low profile, no social media presence to speak of, no interviews, nothing. For a show built on larger-than-life personalities, his story is a reminder that some of the most damaging chapters in the shop's history happened entirely off-camera. Employee number 2, the numbers guy, Scott Jones. Long before Frontiera, there was Scott Jones, one of the very first faces viewers saw when Counting Cars premiered. Scott handled shop management duties and helped keep the books during the show's earliest seasons, and he brought a personality that was the exact opposite of flashy. He was blunt. He didn't sugarcoat anything. If a build was going over budget, he said so, on camera, even if it meant butting heads with Danny in front of the crew. That friction was actually part of the show's early charm. Danny wanted to push builds further. Scott wanted to protect the bottom line. Watching the two of them argue over spending felt like watching two very different kinds of professionals doing their jobs, one driven by vision, the other by discipline. Then, after season 2, Scott was simply gone. No farewell scene, no mention of a departure, nothing. That kind of silent exit is exactly the sort of thing that fuels speculation, and online theories range from financial disputes to personality clashes behind the scenes. None of those rumors were ever confirmed by the show or by Scott himself. What later reporting suggests is far less dramatic. Scott relocated to Tennessee to be closer to family, a decision driven by life circumstances rather than any falling out. He's continued working in the automotive world ever since, running his own shop, Koker's Extreme Automotive, and has even made an appearance on a Netflix series centered on collectible vehicles. His story is a good example of how a quiet exit can get filled in with dramatic rumors simply because a show declines to explain it. Employee number 3, the fan favorite, Roli Szabo. If Scott Jones was the shop's tough love numbers guy, Roli Szabo was its personality engine. From roughly season 2 through season 6, Roli worked as the shop's lead detailer, and he brought a thick accent, a huge grin, and an endless supply of jokes to every scene he was in. He also happened to be extremely good at his job, the kind of detailer who treated a finished paint job like it wasn't truly finished until it was mirror perfect. Fans loved him. Clips of his one-liners circulated widely, and by his peak seasons he'd become one of the most talked about members of the crew who wasn't Danny himself. Then, around 2017, reports surfaced that a significant amount of detailing equipment, reportedly worth thousands of dollars, had gone missing from the shop. Around the same time, Roli disappeared from the show. It's important to be precise here. There was never an official, on-the-record statement from Kustoms directly linking Roli to that missing equipment. What exists are unconfirmed rumors that circulated because of the timing of his exit, not a proven connection. Fans should treat that as speculation rather than settled fact, and plenty of longtime viewers pushed back hard against the idea that Roli was responsible for anything. Whatever the real reason for his departure, Roli didn't vanish from the industry. He stayed in Las Vegas and opened his own detailing business, Rock and Roli Custom Detailing, which has built a loyal local following. For a guy once known mostly for comic relief, he's proven he can run a serious operation on his own terms. Employee number 4, the quiet craftsman, Shannon Aikau. Not every exit from Kustoms involved scandal or rumor. Shannon Aikau's story is almost the opposite, a case study in someone choosing craft over spotlight. Shannon was the shop's lead motorcycle builder for years, and he built a reputation the old-fashioned way, through the work itself. He wasn't a scene stealer. He didn't argue on camera. He just built bikes that looked as good as they rode, with clean lines and obvious attention to detail. Longtime viewers often point to his builds as some of the most technically impressive things to ever come out of the shop. As Counting Cars matured as a television product, though, the show leaned harder into manufactured conflict and storytelling beats designed to keep ratings up. More arguments, more stage tension, more will they finish in time drama. That approach is common across reality TV, but it doesn't suit every personality. By all accounts, Shannon was someone who wanted to build motorcycles, not perform a character for a camera. Starting around season 7, his screen time noticeably shrank, and within a couple of seasons he had faded out of the show almost entirely. There was no blow-up, no public statement, no finger-pointing in either direction. He just stepped back, the same understated way he always worked. Since leaving the spotlight, he's remained active in the Las Vegas motorcycle building scene, and people who know custom bikes still recognize his name and his work. If Frontier's story is a cautionary tale, Shannon's is closer to an example of someone protecting their own integrity, walking away from cameras rather than compromising the kind of work he wanted to do. Employee number 5, the artist, Mike Henry. Finally, there's Mike Henry, known to fans by his on-screen nickname, built around his signature horned helmet and wild mohawk. Mike served as the shop's lead airbrush artist, responsible for the flames, murals, and custom paint details that turned an already impressive build into something truly one-of-a-kind. He came into the shop with a background in custom paint and sculpture, and Danny gave him real creative freedom early on, which paid off in some of the show's most visually memorable builds. Mike was also, by every account, a genuine character, loud, funny, instantly recognizable, and a big part of why certain seasons felt so colorful. But underneath the persona was someone who cared intensely about the quality of his work, and that's where friction started to show up. Airbrushing at a high level takes time. Layering paint, blending shades, getting a mural exactly right, none of that fits neatly into a television production schedule built around tight deadlines. As the seasons went on, reports and fan observations suggest Mike had creative disagreements with Danny over how bold his designs could get versus what the shop needed to keep its brand consistent, and separately felt the pressure of trying to do real artistic work on a TV timeline. His screen time gradually decreased, and eventually he stepped into more of a background role rather than a starring one. Unlike some of the other names on this list, Mike didn't disappear under a cloud of controversy. He shifted his focus toward his own brand, Horny Mike Designs, where he creates custom airbrushed art and accessories under his own name. He still appears at car shows and fan events, and by most accounts has maintained a friendly relationship with Counts Customs, occasionally contributing to projects when it makes sense. His story is less about a bad breakup and more about an artist choosing to build something of his own. Closing thoughts. 5 departures. 5 completely different stories. One involved a lawsuit and allegations serious enough to end up in court. One was buried in online rumor that was never actually confirmed. 2 were quiet, personal decisions with nothing scandalous behind them at all. And 1 was an artist choosing independence over compromise. What ties them together is something bigger than any single scandal. Running a business under constant camera attention puts a strain on people that most viewers never see. Every relationship at Counts Customs, co-worker, boss, business partner, got tested the moment cameras started rolling every day, week after week, season after season. Some people thrived under that pressure. Others didn't, for reasons ranging from criminal allegations to simply wanting a quieter life. Counting Cars is still associated with Danny Koker's name today, but the shop behind the show has clearly gone through more turnover, tension, and quiet transformation than most fans ever picked up on watching the finished episodes. That's often the real story with any long-running reality series. The polished 30 minutes on screen is just the surface of something much messier and much more human happening underneath. If you found this breakdown interesting, let us know in the comments which of these 5 stories surprised you the most, and subscribe for more deep dives into the real stories behind your favorite reality TV shows.